everyone, and welcome to a video of mine. So today I'm going to be telling you some true horror stories. Ooh. Okay, anyway, it's been so long since I did a horror video. I am so sorry guys, but anyway, the next video might be either an Epicraft episode, top 5, or a keyboard ASMR. But I'm gonna do one of each anyway, so if you want, I probably would do a voting system. So go to my community tab, go to my community tab, and maybe there is a new poll that you can vote. Anyway, before I forget, I do want to do some quick shout outs. Before that, let me just take this off, it's kind of bothering me. Okay, thank you. Anyway, shout out to ZXD3 and Fuker HD. If that sounds familiar to you and you've been watching my videos, that's because they're kind of regulars here, and one is looking forward to horror videos and top 5, and one is looking forward to Epicraft, and I'll do each soon, okay? Anyways, let's get into the video. I wasn't using my scary voice. Great. Alright, so this is actually a part 2 of the previous episode's second story. So watch that before you hear the story. Okay, so this story is titled The Creepy House Part 2. Both my paternal and maternal great-grandparents moved from the same village to the same block of flats. They were staying in the same building on different floors, so another story told by my paternal great-grandfather. Let's say his name is Jack. So Jack was a bus driver and he drove the late night bus. He would usually reach home in the wee hours, sometimes close to 2 or 3 a.m. One of his spooky encounters goes like this. He'd had a long day at work. With heavy-lidded eyes, he walked towards the elevator to go up to his flat. He checked his watch and it's 5 minutes past 2 a.m. He yawned and stared at the screen after pressing the button. The elevator was on the 8th floor, coming down ever so slowly. Suddenly, he felt a presence behind them. He turned and saw a lady, quite young, in a traditional white dress. He didn't really pay attention to anything else after that, as a strong, sweet smell of frangipani crept up his nose. Smell of frangipani means ghost in some cultures, by the way. His hair on his back stood at its end, and he could hear himself swallowing his fear. When the elevator door pinged open, he stepped into it without hesitation. The lady followed through and pressed the 8th floor after Jack. She stood beside him throughout the whole ride to the 5th floor. He could feel her stare and dared not to twist his head to look at her. When the door finally opened to the 5th floor, he heaved a sigh of relief. As he stepped out, he walked quickly but stopped short. He didn't feel like he was being followed, but just to be sure, he walked back to the elevator and saw it stopped on the 8th floor. She's probably a real person, he thought, and smiled sheepishly. My mom really challenging me with these words. The next thing he heard was a long, maniacal laughter coming from somewhere above. He jumped at the sound and immediately ran to his flat. He reached the door within seconds, but he had to fumble for the keys. He was breathing hard and dropped his keys because his hands were shaking. Then the door opened all of a sudden. He shrieked, terrified at the sight of his wife in her night cream, face all white. She was rubbing her eyes and complaining that he had probably awakened the entire neighborhood with his noise. Jack wasted no time and rushed into the house, telling his wife to lock it up immediately. She didn't blink twice and did what he said. After calming himself down, he showered and went to bed, telling his wife that he will explain everything the next day. And for the next 5 days, Jack suffered from a high fever. When he recovered, he immediately informed his supervisor that he wished to change to a morning shift instead, and he never saw that lady in the elevator again. The end. Alright guys, so that is the first story. I think it's pretty scary. I mean, imagine you're walking in a dark hallway, it's nighttime obviously, and then you think you're safe from this creepy lady you met, and then you just hear something from above. I'd be panicked too. Oh, and also, if you smell something a little too nice, even if there's nothing around you, you just quickly go home, okay? Or get somewhere safe. Okay, anyways, on to the next story. Alright, so here's yet another creepy incident of my great-grandparents' apartment. This time, it happened when they were moving to another apartment. After staying there for about 5 years, they decide to move to another apartment in a different location. So, one day my mom's uncle, Norman, returned to the old house to pick up some stuff that was left there. The new owner will only move in the following month, so they leave a few unwanted items there to sell or give away. When Norman walked up the door, his neighbor strutted by and asked him whether they came back last night before and had a party. He said no and said no one was staying there. What the neighbor said next sent chills down his spine. She said, "Are you sure? Because my husband and I passed by around midnight and saw your house was busy. All the lights were on and it seemed like there were many people inside. The neighbor definitely can't see through the windows because it has a frosted pane." So he asked, "What were you doing out at midnight?" She said she just came back from a farewell dinner with her family. One of her nephews is studying abroad. Norman paled and quickly changed the topic of their conversation. He congratulated her nephew and quickly entered the house, telling the neighbor that he had to hurry home. The neighbor left. Norman entered, and before he swung the door open, he felt hairs of his arm stood on its end. The apartment was dark, and the only bit of light shone from the frosted window. He stepped inside and quickly made his way to the kitchen where he left some of his tools. While he was searching for it, he heard a woman's laughter behind him. He turned around and saw no one. He thought it was probably one of his neighbors, so he continued lifting the cardboards before he saw his tools. He grabbed them and quickly made his way out. But before he reached the door, at the corner of his eye, he saw a head peeking out from one of the rooms. He swerved around and shouted, "Who's there?" Silence. He quickly approached the room, holding one of the wrench tightly just in case someone did break into the house. He pushed open the door wide and prepared to swing the wrench, but the room was empty. Again, he heard the woman's laughter. This time it's coming from the storeroom. He knew not to go anywhere near the storeroom after hearing all sorts of stories from his family, so he walked as fast as he could to the exit door. And as he was about to close it, he heard bangings from the storeroom that was so loud. He panicked and quickly closed the main door without locking it and ran like something was chasing him. The next day, he came with his wife. He told her everything and she agreed to accompany him back. They came sometime in the afternoon, after lunch. They walked together approaching the door, and the next thing they heard was a loud bang of a door closing hard from inside the house. Both of them looked at each other, with keys in his hand. Norman quickly locked up the place and both of them scuttled out of there for good. The end. Dramatic pause. Alright guys, so that is the last story of this despicable apartment. Side-eye. So stay tuned for more horror stories, of course, more series like this scary apartment, or the creepy apartment, sorry. And if my stories do come to an end, don't worry, I will try to find some other true stories maybe near around my area. So if you guys have noticed, I've been really inconsistent with my posts lately, and that's because I also have some non-horror stories that I want to share. Like I've done it in the past as well, for example, my cockroaches in a hotel video, and some others too. Most of them are really random, but they're really nice stories and I want to tell them. Anyways, let's get into the outro. Hello again. Alright guys, so that's the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Anyways, also don't forget to comment in the comment section what video you want next. Either that or comment something nice and you might get a shout out next video. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe to support my channel. Have a nice day / night. Goodbye. Bye bye. Ching. Norman, what the neighbor said, what? I almost said partay. Return to, sorry. And smelled sheepishly, and smelled